It's the 2023 NBA draft, and the ESPN crew is doing their normal coverage on the NBA draft when the conversation about draft prospect Brandon Miller was brought up. Miller is a 6'9" small forward who played at Alabama, and he had a pretty good season there. It was projected that he could end up going in the top 3, which was justified after the season he had. Now, as Brandon Miller was brought up, Malika Andrews, an analyst for ESPN, had this to say about him.
Involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting in Alabama, has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him?
Of course, a lot of people are frustrated. Why would Malika Andrews bring this up on this young man's special night? Especially when Brandon Miller wasn't even the main suspect in the case.
Hopefully he brings it up, but what was that first thing Malika was getting smoked about? What was that first? Because I remember she was everyone's darling during the whole Rachel Nichols shit. I think there was complaints about Rachel Nichols getting snubbed from Malika Andrews. And then, was it around the Ime situation where motherfuckers were going crazy about Malika? Was it about the Ime shit, bro? I think it was about the Ime shit. I forgot exactly what happened, though. But, yeah, I think she brought up Coach Mazzulla's like criminal history just out of nowhere. Oh yeah, she went off on Stephen A. Let's see. She went on Ime for no reason. I remember she went off on Stephen A. But even that, I'm forgetting like what she went off about. I just remember a lot of people were mad at Malika Andrews during that time too.
She's talking about. Today we are going to be looking into Malika Andrews because believe me, this isn't the first time that she's done something like this. So let's give this clip some context first. In this clip is Malika Andrews talking about Brandon Miller and a case that he was involved in while at Alabama. Now, unlike the other cases we're going to talk about today, I would argue that this was the most popular out of all of them. Miller was arguably the best player in the NCAA while at Alabama, so of course the case got a lot of coverage. Now in this clip, Malika explained that he was a part of a murder case involving one of his teammates. Now all she mentioned about Miller is that he was linked to it and that he was very cooperative during the investigation, but she misses a lot of context. For one, she almost ignores his entire role in this case altogether. Darius Miles was a player at Alabama who killed a woman named James Harris. Another person named was Michael Lynn Davis, who was also charged for being his accomplice. So right away, let's get it straight. Miller was not charged and he was not even a suspect. Miller's involvement in the case was driving Darius Miles to the scene according to police. However, Miller was oblivious to what was going on. The police said he might have supplied the gun, but sources have also said the gun actually belonged to Miles. Believe what you want to believe, but the bottom line is that Brandon Miller was not and will not be charged for this case. So tell me why Malika Andrews would bring this up as his life was about to change forever. Now, if this was a situation where he fell down the draft and he was going to maybe the 10th or 20th spot, I'd understand why this gets brought up. However, that was not the case and it was never going to be the case. Brandon Miller was a projected top 3 pick in this year's draft and he wasn't number 3. He would end up getting selected number 2 by the Charlotte Hornets, which did not surprise me. Victor Wembanyama was going to go number 1 no matter if Brandon Miller was involved in this case or he was not. Wemby was easily the best player in this draft and there was nothing that was going to stop him from going 1. So Brandon Miller going 2 was honestly the right decision. So again, for no reason this case was brought up to ask Woj how would this affect his draft stock, which was funny because again, he got drafted not even 5 minutes later. Everyone knew he was going to go 2 or 3, so why did you think it would even play a factor? Malika might have hidden agendas, but she's not dumb. She knows that Miller was a top 3 pick and reports said he was going to go to number 2. So her bringing this up was not a coincidence. It was her doing what she's done for years. Tear down black men because she doesn't respect them. And I'm not just some incel ready to tear down any female in sports. I'm someone who has seen her tear down black men for her own reasons multiple times. Let's go back to 2022. The Boston Celtics had just gotten rid of Ime Udoka because of a cheating scandal. To replace him, they would bring on interim head coach Joe Mazzulla. Of course, this was a prominent topic, so ESPN had to talk about it. However, the way Malika Andrews would cover Joe Mazzulla was very questionable.
Be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery.
This is my only thing though. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of like how producers affect what the fuck is said. Cause from my understanding, these shows are very, very prepared. These shows are not just off the cuff for the most part. People like deadass know what, like they probably got earpieces that are connected to producers in the backstage telling them, yo, what the fuck, you know, what you should be talking about, what you shouldn't be talking about. Are you bugging? Are you not? Keep going, X, Y, and Z. So my only thing is when it comes to judging what these people say on air, especially when it comes to reporting shit like this, there are producers in their fucking ear. There are producers in their ear. I'll say this firsthand. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say it or not. But when I was doing those streams for Bleacher Report, and I do have one coming up, it's just a different level of producing when you get to like higher levels, and not necessarily higher levels, but more like produced conglomerates. I should say, like, there's a difference between me doing this stream right now and me doing those Bleacher Report streams. Like, they ask for information going into the streams just to get a general outlook of what the fuck we got going on. Shit is damn near pre-planned. We got a producer in our ear telling us, like, yo, what y'all should do in the first couple of minutes, how y'all should, you know, format everything, things that you should talk about, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing.
After an incident at Morgantown Bar, the domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service.
Like this shit right here she's saying right now, that is not something that she just has in the top of her fucking head. She is reading a teleprompter that, again, I don't, was the producer tell Malika to say this shit? Did Malika Andrews tell the producers to put this on the sheet? I just don't know that dynamic. So
no, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So
I don't need to tell you why bringing up an incident from 15 years ago makes no sense, especially when you said it yourself that he would not go to trial. It's been 15 years and it seems like Missoula has become a better man, yet you felt it was justified to bring up an old case to talk down on someone. Now, I made a video about this about a year ago and it blew up. And in the comment section, a lot of people were reminding me of other times that Malika has done this exact same thing. So this Joe Missoula thing wasn't just a one-off, because if it was, you could say it was a mistake or bad journalism, but it wasn't. Mind you, I haven't even brought up the fact that she tried to gaslight Stephen A. Smith on national television for blaming women. The reason for this, well, his coverage on this Ime Udoka situation, which was crazy to say the least. Oh, and she also kicked Kendrick Perkins off the show because he had a different opinion, which again is just something to think about. Oh, but I'm not done. Let's go back a little bit further. Adrian Payne was a former NBA player who didn't really have a successful career. However, he was a star in college when he played for the Spartans at Michigan State. However, on May 9, 2022, Adrian Payne was murdered in Orlando, Florida due to being shot. A lot of people showed their support for Payne as he was pretty well liked. While people were planning their tributes and sending their condolences to Payne's family, Malika had other plans.
Former Michigan State star Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida early Monday morning, the Orange County Sheriff's Office said. And Payne was the 15th pick by the Atlanta Hawks in 2014. Played 4 seasons in the NBA with multiple teams. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case.
I cannot begin to explain why this is messed up. Once again, he wasn't fucking charged. They were literally allegations. Not to mention, that's not why he got waived. In his final season, he played 5 games and was barely in the rotation. So once again, she brought up an old case with zero relevance. Now let's compare this tribute to another dead person that she talked about. A writer for the Mavericks by the name of Jonathan Tjarks died, and Malika Andrews talked about it on the show in a very different tone.
I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Jonathan Tjarks, an NBA writer for The Ringer who died over the weekend after a battle with a rare form of cancer. And he was just 35 years old. Tjarks wrote extensively about the Mavericks, and we at NBA Today send our heartfelt condolences to his wife, Melissa, and his son Jackson and his entire family.
The way she talks about these two people are in very different ways. Now, Tjarks didn't have anything dirty about him to talk about, but someone that had some allegations towards him was Luke Walton. Luke Walton was hired by the Mavericks as an assistant coach, and of course, ESPN was going to talk about it. Just like Missoula, they had to talk about a coaching hire. In 2019, Luke Walton had been accused of sexual assault to a sports reporter around 3 years before he joined the Cavs. You would think Malika would have a lot to say about this because it involves sexual assault on a reporter. Well, let's see how she talked about it.
Cavaliers, they are hiring Luke Walton as an assistant coach. That's according to ESPN senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Walton joins Coach J.B. Bickerstaff's staff Say that 10 times fast. After spending the past 5+ seasons as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers and Sacramento Kings, Walton, who was dismissed after a 6-11 start with the Kings in November, was part of an NBA championship coaching staff with Golden State under Steve Kerr in 2015.
There is a
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. That does not look good, bro. No, that does not look good, Miss Malika. Nah. You brought up an exact one-to-one example. And, ooh, that's tough right there. And she had a big-ass smile on her face. Luke Walton, hired by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tight shit. Now, that's not a good look. That's not a good look, man.
clear-cut difference between how she talks about Luke Walton and how she talks about Joe Mazzulla. Mind you, these were months apart, so why she decided to have a different attitude with Mazzulla starts to make sense. And I wish this was all my proof. I wish I could stop the video and let you come to your own conclusion, which would probably not be on Malika's side. But there's another case that I've never talked about involving yet another black man in Jalen Rose. About 2 months ago, Jalen Rose appeared on NBA Today while giving Malika Andrews a side hug, which during that, she told him to get his fingers out her armpits. While that would be bad if he did it, he didn't. Actually, we have clear-cut proof. If we slow down the video, we can clearly see 5 fingers on her arm, which I don't know if you've ever hugged anyone, but that's a pretty normal thing to do. I don't know if she actually had anyone in her armpit. Some said it was Richard Jefferson, but he's at a pretty far distance for him to do that, so I genuinely think she just made it up. Now, to be fair, there was a claim that this got Jalen Rose fired. However, this has been proven false. Boss Sports is the one who actually made the tweet that Jalen Rose got fired, so tread carefully with all this. But it is something to think about, as she did say that, and people like Kwame Brown actually came after her. Like I said, it is very hard to see everything she's done in this video and not think about everything in a different light. On my last video, a lot of people commented the fact that she was allegedly dating some guy named Dave McKinnon, who is a writer for ESPN as well. He's the same guy who actually called Russell Westbrook a vampire, believe it or not. Anyways, I can't confirm if this is true, but most people have tried to claim that this shows that she doesn't like black people and only respects white people. Now, in her defense, I'm gonna defend her for a sec, because I don't think it is fair to use how someone dates someone as a way of saying, oh, they're racist. I honestly believe that you're allowed to date anyone you want, whether they're white, black, Mexican, Asian, it does not matter. Despite me criticizing in her video, I just don't think it's fair to say that her dating a white guy makes her 100% racist. But then again, it's interesting to think that she's allegedly dating the same guy.
I mean, my only thing is repeated behavior. I mean, that specs his whole argument in this case is like, yo, this is not just a one-time thing. This is repeated behavior. I understand. I don't know Malika's dating history, but if she has dated exclusively white men, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. And it's not on some one and done shit, you know?
Guy who called Russell Westbrook a vampire. At this point, I feel like some people in the media will truly never change, and I think Malika is one of those people that falls into that category. For years, she has tried to make black people genuinely look bad, whether it's by coincidence or not. Not to mention, it's happened multiple times, and it's hard to look at every time she does it once more. But there is one possibility that I don't think we've considered, one that would make a certain company look very, very bad. What if it's not her fault? What if we shouldn't blame Malika Andrews? Maybe she's being sat up by the network. We have proof that ESPN uses a teleprompter, which should not be much of a shock to anyone. Is there a possibility that ESPN is using her to say these things? If ESPN is putting these things on the teleprompter, then it makes them look 10 times worse compared to Malika. But if Malika is saying these things on her own account, well, she is to blame. But I do wonder about this concept of ESPN using a gorgeous female to say the messed up shit that they want to say. Because to this day, Malika Andrews is considered one of the most attractive female analysts in sports. Most people will ignore the messed up shit that she does because of this. However, others might still think she's attractive, but they'll look at what she does in a different light. Regardless, I think everyone is going to forget about this, but when this happens again, because I know it will, maybe we will start to question the curious case of Malika Andrews.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he mentioned that, though. Like, for real, I'm glad he mentioned that. That makes it a very great video to me. Because, again, that whole producer on-camera talent dynamic is really the key to all of this. Because if Malika, if Malika is just, I'm clocking in, yo, producer, what I gotta say today? Joe Mazzulla got hired, he had this history. Okay, bet. I mean, let me just clock in type shit. Then, I'm gonna be honest, I can only blame Malika so much. But if that dynamic is, yo, Malika, what you want to talk about today? And she's like, yeah, let's talk about this Joe Mazzulla hiring. Oh, don't forget. He has some history now. Then that's a whole different dynamic. We just don't know. Because I'm just speaking from my experience. Our dynamic with Cruz and Tings on the producer side of things for the podcast is more aligned with the latter example that I just said. Like, Cruz and Tings will come up with topics for us to talk about, but ultimately, they're not in our ear telling us what to say and what not to say. We can freestyle, we can get our shit off. You know, if we want something on the list, we can hit them up and have them put shit on the list and they can just expand on it. But again, there are some shows and some, productions where it is very robotic. It is very, you say this at this spot at this second so that we can meet this ad break at this time and we can end on the clock type shit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's a difficult situation. I just don't want to make assumptions, but I see where Specs is coming from, though.